Welcome to Season 6 of our curling podcast, Two Girls in a Game. Our show has our insights and opinions on our favorite sport with a hint of humor and a little gossip on the side. Curling, we love it all. The game, the players, the drama, and the controversies. So stick with us and you'll hear all about it. So Mary, it's episode 8.
Yes.
And we have some exciting news to share with everybody.
Yes, we do.
And we've got a new promo for the pod. And here it is. You're listening to Two Girls in a Game Curling Podcast, part of the Curling News and Sports Illustrated partnership.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! So, Mary, what do you think this means for us?
Well, it could mean that we will get a broader spectrum of listeners, perhaps, because Sports Illustrated is a big name out there, and perhaps we might end up getting people that don't even curl, come upon our podcast and have a listen.
That's true. They do have 150 million monthly viewers.
Is that all? Wow.
I know. No pressure now. Obviously, they contacted us because of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition.
Well, that's what I thought we would be doing,
That's why we've been holding out, no Women of Curling calendar. We held out for the Sports Illustrated.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's a good thing, I think. I hope. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's going to happen is Sports Illustrated and the Maven Company, they're partnering up, and they are going to include a curling page on their website. So we're going to be right along with curling, that is. We'll be right along with the NCAA, hockey, NBA, NFL, MLB, all that. So we are basically contributors now for this big organization. It's really exciting.
Oh my God, it's so exciting. who would have thought two girls, right?
Oh, right?
Yeah, it's great.
Good. Okay. So curling fans, you can go to thecurlingnews.com to find out more about this exciting opportunity for us.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right.
Let's before we get into curling, did you watch the Masters on TV?
Well, I did watch some of it. I always look forward to the Masters. Interesting fun fact, though, I just found out that the Masters viewership was down by 46%.
Well, isn't that interesting? Because that just leads me right into what I was actually going to talk about, which is so funny that you say that. So I was at my dad's last night, and I did ask him, I said, did you watch the Masters? And he said, no. Like, Dad always watched golf, any kind of sport on TV. He says, no, I didn't. And he said, because it's just not the same watching it during this particular time in the world.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. So apparently a ton of people agree with your dad.
Interesting, yeah. And I'm not going to lie, I agree with him too. And well, actually, I was watching the Masters a little bit, and I just sort of caught the tail end of what they were speaking about, one of the golfers that was out there at the time. And that golfer had said that he's really missing the crowds and that it is negatively affecting his performance because he needs their energy.
Absolutely. I totally understand that.
Yeah.
It's just a whole different ball game to play. And I don't know, I think that these athletes feed off adrenaline. Like, look at Tiger Woods. He took a 10 on a par 3.
Yeah. No, you can't blame that on no crowds, can you?
I don't know. It makes you just wonder, a little lapse in concentration. It's just not the same. It might be a bit boring. Who knows?
Well, and even I was watching, what little curling we get to watch right now, which is on the internet. And I was watching a little bit. I'm telling you, Lori, I don't think I've ever done this before. I actually shut it off mid-game, and it wasn't because it was not a good game. I was bored silly.
Oh my goodness.
And then I got thinking, why am I so bored watching this? And you know what I think humans need is distractions. Like, so if you think of watching curling on TSN, I mean, it's such a professional production, right?
Right.
And it's not just watching people throw rocks down the ice. They scan the crowds. They've got the really professional commentators, and it's just so many good distractions.
Yeah, and it holds your attention more.
Absolutely. You know what? I have attention span of a flea. So I need that. And that's probably why I had to turn that curling game off.
Well, also, I think some of it is you get used to certain routines with watching professional sports, and perhaps by not having those cues that keep us engaged, it's just not the same.
Yep.
So the music, that brings you in, and when the commercial's over, it brings you back, and the
Yes.
voices and all the things that we have grown so fondly to love
Yeah.
are no
Yeah.
longer there. So it doesn't feel the same, and therefore doesn't hold our attention the same way.
Now, did you see Paulina Gretzky?
I did not. I missed the ending.
Well, Paulina did you hear about her cute little green jacket?
No.
Well, you know that the green jacket that her husband was going to get. So she had on an Adidas really cute, sporty green jacket on.
Oh.
And I think now Adidas sales are going to go up a lot.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't be able to find that jacket online now.
Probably not, but it was adorbs. And she's quite a looker, that one. She had on her little tight leggings. And
Now, I wonder if she wore it all day or if she just threw it on after he won. Because if it were me, I would be worried I would have jinxed him.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know, but I definitely, when he was on the 18th, they kept showing her, and she had on the green jacket.
How many shots was he ahead at that point?
I think he was five ahead.
Yeah, then it's safe to put it on.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And he was, I don't know if you saw him, and he was interviewed after, and he couldn't even speak. He was crying so much.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, yeah. Because he was runner-up in this last year.
Yeah, he's been
and he
close
kept-
a few times, I think.
He kept apologizing to the interviewer, saying, "I'm sorry. I honestly, I don't know what's wrong with me, but I can't speak."
It's a big moment, and it's one of the, I think it's, for me, watching golf, it's the biggest golf tournament every year. And I think it's on every golfer's wish list to win that one and to win the green jacket, and you go down in history, and yeah, it's a big moment. It doesn't surprise me that he got choked up. I would too.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a crier.
Well, and he also won $2 million, so there you go.
But do you think the money even means anything anymore to these guys? They have so much money. I think it doesn't.
Well, not really. No, you're right. And this is where we talk about winning the Brier and the Scotties. It's all about the pride of winning it.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, should we talk a little bit about the Toronto Hope evening?
Briefly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we were asked to take part in this virtual charity event, and it took place on Saturday that just passed. And oh, Mary, what did you think of our contribution once it got up there?
I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about it. I'm not sure now. No, I'm kidding. So yeah, our contribution was definitely different than everything else that was on the show.
Yeah, that's what makes me nervous, is it was so drastically different than everything else that took place that night. And what happens is it goes out there. You don't see anybody's reaction because it's all virtual. Mm-hmm. So you're like showing your baby to the world, but you don't know if they think it's ugly or not.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know. So So we have the rights to that 15 minutes. So we may never put that out there again. But at the same time, we had a lot of fun. But I do have something really funny. So we had to log into this Zoom. It was basically a Zoom call, but they hired a tech company to look after this because there was people that were coming on that show from all across Canada. Kevin Martin was on it, Colleen Jones, the Flurry team. There was a lot of people. So they called when you first log in, you're not logged into where you're going to be logged in when people are watching, and they called it the green room. So when you and I went in and we logged in, and the Flurry team were already in the green room. We could see them all. We're all, yay, hi, hi, hi. And then Colleen Jones comes into the green room. And she sees us and we see her and she's like, oh, hi girls, blah, blah, blah. And then she starts talking to you saying that she saw your brother because your brother's out in Lunenburg. She says, I saw him the other day, and the two of you start chatting. And I was getting worried because I knew that the tech lady, Amanda, wanted to make sure that we are prepared. So I simply said, okay, you guys are going to have to stop talking now. because the tech lady, I think, wants to tell us what we need to do. And I never thought of this until like yesterday, thinking that I actually shut down Colleen Jones. I shut her down, and she even said to me, oh, okay, I'll shut up now.
That is very true, and you did. You bossy thing.
I did. I told Colleen Jones, you're going to have to stop now. I thought of it later. I'm like, oh my God, I'm wondering what she thinks of me. But she took it all very well.
She certainly did. And you know what? I never gave it another thought until you just said that. So hilarious.
Isn't that? I think I'm a bit of a control freak. But I knew that Amanda, she was such a nice lady that was running it, and she probably didn't want to interrupt.
Very true.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway.
I think we'll briefly discuss what our contribution was. And basically, I had this idea that Mary and I could play characters, older, crustier, unfiltered versions of ourselves, and we could dress up and it would be really funny. And then that idea just sat on the shelf for about 2 years until this event came up. And I said to you, why don't we bring out Marion and Loretta? This would be perfect.
Yeah, now when you say characters, you have to let everybody know that they were curlers.
Yes. Two older, crusty curlers that are a little unfiltered. And anyway, we wrote a skit about these ladies and pre-recorded it, and that was our 15-minute segment. Well, I don't know. I think it was funny, but we had one day to write it and record it. I think we did a decent job, and I learned a new skill. I had to learn how to use iMovie. So, you know what? If nothing else, it was a great learning lesson.
Well, yeah, we had a really good time doing it, and
so fun.
We hope somebody gets a laugh out of it someday.
Yeah, exactly. And there was a few pictures that we put up on social media of us in character. And we had the costumes and the whole thing going. And there was quite a few likes and comments.
Well, and we were dressed up like your typical women of a certain age, I guess you could say, that just what they would wear curling, Let's just say we did not look hot at all.
But it was so fun. It was so fun, though. God. I'm going to remember that so fondly for the rest of my life, doing that.
Well, we've got it on video so we can watch it for the rest of our life. But
exactly.
Yeah. Well, stay tuned, right? We might do more.
Well, we'll see. You never know. Yeah. Marion and Loretta might come out again. So, Mary, I'm glad we had our last hurrah because I got to, spend the weekend with you. And now I'm red zoned for 4 weeks.
Yes, you are. You bad, bad people there in Hamilton.
I know. I feel like I've been put in the corner or something. So
Yeah.
basically, all our games are now canceled. So we have no more curling games, but they're allowing us to have practice ice. So that's good. So I might end the season early, but I was 3-0. I played 2 league games and 1 doubles game. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, see, I was smart. I didn't even bother.
I know.
Oh, dear.
Well, I have to say, playing the games, I have a little bit more appreciation for how difficult it is to wear masks when playing. And I know we've always said, oh, you got to wear your mask, but it is really hard when you're sweeping. So I do understand. Like, actually, I found it quite torturous at times. So skipping, no problem. I was totally okay wearing the mask. Sweeping was not so much fun. Not enjoyable.
No,
But
it doesn't look it.
no, but it's necessary, and I did it, but I did not like it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we were supposed to have the Whitby Spiel this coming weekend, and that got canceled. So there goes our something to look forward to.
Yeah, a few of the teams that probably out in your area were to come out to that, and obviously with them being in the red zone, that's here in Ontario, we are going by zones now. So red zone it's a bit of a lockdown,
Yeah,
We're
you're
still-
basically one step away from entirely locked down. We are encouraged not to do any travel other than for doctors, for groceries, work, and school. That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, dear. But on the positive, there was some promising vaccine news again this week. So there's a little bit of hope.
There is. So I was telling my dad, we were talking about that. He's 92. And I said, about this vaccine. And I said, well, when it becomes available, the elderly are going to be one of the first to get it. And he said, well, they should give it to us last, as us old bastards are already on our way out.
Oh, Gordy!
He still got it. He really does.
He still
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah, he doesn't understand. He thinks they've got it backwards.
Well, you know what? That's interesting. And maybe they should do a little survey and maybe others would agree with him. I wonder.
Yeah, you're right.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Here the scientists or the people want to protect that vulnerable generation. Maybe that vulnerable generation's like, yeah, we're good. We'll take our chances.
We're good. We've had a good go.
We had a good run.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
Well, I'll tell you, it couldn't come soon enough because according to CNN, I was watching the other day, and they basically were saying it's a humanitarian disaster. It's so bad that Doctors Without Borders are now coming into the States to help.
Yeah.
And here in Canada, our numbers are not much better. They have increased by 100,000 in the last month alone. So that's really, really scary.
Oh, I don't know. And I still don't know anybody who's gotten it.
I don't personally either. And I want to keep it that way.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, did you know the first known case was 1 year ago today?
Yeah, I did see that on the
I
news.
thought that was interesting.
In China, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what's this? This is November.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know.
Yeah.
1
God.
year. We've been at this racket for a year now.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about what COVID has done to cancellations around the curling world.
Oh, God, it's so depressing.
Yeah. The Okotoks spiel. Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about the Okotoks spiel. First, before we get to the spiel, can we discuss the terrible timing that Curl Alberta head when they announced their plan to run a joint men's and women's provincial championship in January, and that there would be no bubble, but they would do a few modifications just to prevent COVID. And they really couldn't bubble because they don't have any contact with the opposition, and bubbles are not realistic because of the related expenses. And on the same day that this announcement came out, the doctors that work for Alberta pled to the government for stricter measures to be put into place and said the spread is uncontrollable. And then that same day, we were so looking forward to watching the action, the ladies' action out in Okotoks. We got about halfway through the game and that got shut down and will be shut down for a couple more weeks.
Yeah, halfway through the first game.
Ugh. It was just terrible, terrible timing.
Well, yeah, like we're sitting there watching them, but the fourth, fifth end, and that poor commentator sounded like he was gonna cry.
Absolutely.
When he had to come on and tell us that they just got word that as of midnight tonight, no recreational sports allowed, which means that they have to cancel this event.
Yeah. So. It was a real gut punch. But I mean, honestly, I was conflicted. As much as I was looking forward to watching this event, it was probably the biggest event the women's teams have had so far this year. There was a fairly decent prize. There was a lot of good teams. A lot of the top teams were there. I was still conflicted that teams were traveling to get there, and I felt kind of gross about that. But on the other hand, I was excited to watch. So I'm really straddling the fence on this.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a tough one. See, the problem here in Canada is, and in the States, our prime minister hasn't made the rule for the entire, like a rule, the same rules for the entire country. Every province, and it's understandable. We have a province of Ontario or Quebec, and then you have territories like Nunavut, etc., where they're so tiny, so you can't really make the same rules. But so it's kind of province to province, and you don't know, like when you're going to Okotoks to curl for that weekend. All of a sudden things were changing in Alberta, where all of a sudden the numbers are getting bigger and bigger. And to me, it's like I saw someone on the news, and they just described this whole situation so well when they said, we're building the boat as we're sailing in it. Right? It's like we're kind of going every day. We just got to see what happens, and then we got to make a call.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And that's what happened.
And if you were following the numbers in Alberta the last week before Okotoks started, you could see them creeping higher and higher. And I think a couple days before that spiel happened, they were close to 900. Well, they have a third of our population in Ontario. So that's big, because we're panicking here when the numbers are getting close to 1,500 a day. But they were getting 900, and they have a third of the population. So it really wasn't great. And I think what was hard for me to understand is Manitoba had shut everything down for the next few weeks. So teams were not allowed to travel to other parts of the province. But then they were allowed to travel outside the province. So it just is so strange to me that this happens.
Yeah. Wow. Lori, I hear something like a whistling.
Oh, that's the train going by.
Oh, really?
It is.
Oh, okay. Okay. I just want to make sure it wasn't an audio thing.
No, it's the train.
Yeah, so very disappointing for those curlers, but I guess you were going there with the thought that anything can happen. I think it was kind of shocking that it happened after what, 4 ends of play.
Oh my
But
gosh. Like Anderson was quoted, everything is good in Alberta right now, but that could change. And change it
yeah.
did.
So yeah, yeah, so what a shame because those women, a lot of them have children that they had to set up babysitting for the weekend, and they even though a lot of them were from Alberta, they still had to get in their cars and travel to the event and book hotel rooms and all that, right? So
Absolutely. And I was thinking about the flights, the people that had to take flights.
yeah.
And it's not easy to change flights these days. If you want to book a different day to book home, they can't just pay. You can't just pay a change fare anymore. You've got to. They do this big calculation, like it's a nightmare. So
Well, that's in non-COVID times too. Like how often?
yeah,
Like I wonder
that's
how quickly they were able to get onto a plane to go back home.
yeah, that's a really good point because I'm sure there's way less flights going these days.
For sure.
Oh
Yeah.
God, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we did get to see the matchup we've all been waiting for. At least the one game they showed was the game we all wanted to see.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was between
But
Jennifer Jones and Rachel Homan, except
yeah,
it wasn't much of a game.
no, it was not. It was definitely Holman's game.
Oh my gosh, like Team Homan came out firing. They took a 4 in the first end, and Team Jones just didn't look like themselves. They just weren't quite there. So the game ended in 5 ends. So it was
Yeah.
unfortunately not the best showing for
No.
them. And
Mhm.
Lisa was playing for Dawn. Dawn is still staying pretty close to home. She
Mhm.
hasn't been out on the road yet this season. So yeah, I was a little disappointed it wasn't a nail biter or anything like that.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, Jennifer wasn't I don't think was as sharp as she usually is.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. She just wasn't making those big shots that we're used to seeing, and
Yeah.
yeah, don't know. It just
Mhm.
wasn't her day, and unfortunately, she's got to sit with that one for a while because I think the next few weeks all the events are canceled from what I'm hearing. So remember, Emma Miskew went all the way out there, and she was going to stay for a month. I think we talked about it on the last podcast.
Mhm.
And now all those events that she was going out to play, there was a couple mixed doubles event, the Red Deer event, they've all been canceled.
Yeah. And we're still anxiously awaiting to hear from Curling Canada.
Yes.
Because today's November 17th? So we're creeping up there.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to get some clarity on what is happening. And this, I don't know about you, but I feel like the silence is deafening at this point. Like,
Well,
I thought this might be the catalyst. This Okotoks spiel being canceled last minute, like when all the teams were there, reminiscent of the women's worlds. I thought this is the catalyst. This is finally going to get them to start talking, and still nothing. Still
well, they
nothing.
probably are. They're doing a lot of talking, just not publicly. But
Good point.
but think of it too, though, where they were, talking about holding the Brier or the Scotties and the Brier would be in Alberta and Calgary, and so now that Alberta's been hit so bad, I'm telling you, just remember what I said way back in September.
I know. I'm going to go back at some point when there's no curling to speak of and take the clip of what we said back in March.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Was it March?
I feel like it was in March. I feel like it was really early on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The interesting thing out in Alberta at the Okotoks Spiel was they were wearing the masks. The women's teams were wearing them, but they were wearing them and then not wearing them, and then they were chin guards, and then you saw the noses. Like, how do you feel about seeing areas of one's face with a mask on that you're not used to seeing anymore, because I'm having quite an aversion to seeing people's noses all of a sudden when they have a mask on. I'm actually quite like, put that away.
You mean when they're wearing a mask, but it's under their nose?
Yes.
Oh, it's hideous. It's hideous. I have a whole segment I'm going to do on masks, but I don't have it ready for tonight. So
okay. But you've noticed this too? Like, do you feel a bit grossed out when you see someone's schnoz hanging out?
I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted. It's just the whole thing. Yes, it's funny. When I was at my dad's, again, yesterday, he's in a senior's place, and he's on the 6th floor. I took the elevator up with this elderly man who had the mask just covering his freaking face, and he was sticking his face in mine trying to talk to me. And I'm thinking, buddy, you of all people, like you're very vulnerable here, and he's got this mask just covering his mouth, and he didn't give a shit. But yes, it's very unappealing.
Yeah, it is weird. And then we'll get to Penticton, but since we're talking about masks, I have to bring this up before I forget. But what I notice with masks and curling, if you're wearing lighter colored ones, or you're wearing the, what are they called? The
You mean like what Glenn Howard and them were wearing?
Yeah, like those face covering ones.
Yeah.
If you wear a lighter color, you start seeing like a wet spot, and it's really not attractive. And it's quite distracting when you're watching and all of a sudden you see this big wet spot on their light colored face coverings. Just thought I'd put it out there. So maybe guys, like, wear some darker ones so we don't see the wet spots. Not so good. The last note I have about Alberta is, I guess Dunstone's kind of glad that they didn't make the move out there now.
It's a good thing they just sat back and thought about it.
Just took a beat.
Yes.
Got whoever was the voice of reason did a good job.
Yep.
Kept those boys under control. Now, guys, let's just hang tight here.
Yeah.
Because they're probably thanking their lucky stars at this moment. Oh, dear. Okay. Well, after all that depressing news, I'm going to give you a little bit of positive news.
Okay.
So, the Kingston 2020 Brier was a big success. Now, we know that because we went and we had a blast and it was so much fun, but it was also a financial success. They sold 97,000 tickets. There was 8,900 out-of-town visitors, and the Brier-related economic activity was $11.4 million, and Kingston alone had $8 million spent there.
And who is it that's saying the Brier people aren't going to the Brier anymore?
I know, because when you hear those numbers, here's another number. 70 hours of coverage on TSN and 40 million views.
Yeah.
So that's pretty big when you see the streaming online, and the most people get is about 2,000 people tuning in.
Yeah. Well, what did I say earlier tonight about the whole production that TSN puts on and Sportsnet? But I'm going to say TSN is, my personal favorite because they do cover my favorite championships, which are the Brier and Scotties. But just, the whole production, it's all part of it. That's what's drawing people to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, you had mentioned that we were still waiting for Curling Canada to make an official announcement about the Brier and Scotties. You know what's weird is they haven't even announced officially that those events won't be happening in Thunder Bay and Kelowna. Which,
yeah, you're right.
I mean, if nothing else, like, I think everybody kind of knows that that's not happening.
Sports writers have been writing about it.
Yeah, I think they're speculating still because nothing official has been said. And then the other thing that hasn't really been talked about is, if they are running, is there going to be a change in format, or are they going with the traditional format? How do you do the wild card game if that's the case? That type of thing. So anyway, just everybody is awaiting word. But then I read this week that the 2021 World Junior Championships has been canceled. So this is kind of scary because it was supposed to be a test event for the Olympic venue in Beijing. So I'm sure they did not take that decision lightly. They would have liked to have had that event to see how the venue was and how everything went. And that has now been canceled. And then the wheelchair championships is not canceled, but it's postponed.
Now, when were these events supposed to take place? What month? Do you know?
I think normally I'm guessing that the World Championships for the juniors is around February, March, in that time frame. I honestly can't remember right offhand, but it's around that same time.
And that's run by the World Curling Federation.
Yeah.
I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
And ours obviously are run, the Brier and Scotties, the Canadian Association. If they're going to cancel a world championship that's supposed to be played around the same time the Brier and Scotties are played, again, I mean, let's just... You
think the writing's on the wall?
Let's just the writing's on the wall. Yeah.
I'd say today I feel agreeable to that fact.
Yeah.
As sad as it makes me, I just don't see how. I think they're hoping things turn around, but if you just look at what's happening, nothing is turning around. If anything, it's ramping up.
No, they know. Well, come on. If you and I know that things aren't going to turn around, they know that as well. The whole world knows it right now. If anybody at least turns the TV on and sees what these doctors and scientists are saying, nothing's turning around until this vaccine, and that's a whole other story of whether people are even going to get that.
Yeah.
But
I did read an article that said they hoped that everybody in Canada would be vaccinated, but it won't happen until the end of 2021. So we're still in this for a while.
I know.
Did you see that?
I know. I saw that too. Oh yeah. I was like, God. Now see, if they took Gordy's advice, it gave the elderly, we get it sooner, but no. Yeah. Anyway.
Mary, just push him over and stand in line.
Yeah, George Costanza. That's what he would do. He would. Anyway, what else we got, Laura?
Okay, what do you think of the posts that the teams are making to social media after these events are canceled? I'm quoting, understandable, quoting, tough decisions, quoting, health is most important, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me wonder, if you know all that and you're saying all that, why are you even going? Can someone just say, dang it, this sucks. Can COVID be over now? We want to curl.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't answer that. There's a lot of people that are talking both sides of their mouth, I guess you could say. I don't know. None of these teams want to just concede the year and just say, you know what, girls or boys, we're not playing. Let's just take the year off, because they know all their competitors are out there playing.
Yeah, 100%.
Well,
then it was interesting because the curling media tried to drum up some, not so much controversy, but some conversation over whether or not curling is a pro sport or an amateur sport, and should the event in Okotoks have been canceled if it was just recreational events that were supposed to be canceled. So Greg Strong tweeted about that the women were playing for $10,000, and he said, what did he say? He said, Not to stoke the whole pro versus amateur curling debate, and I understand 10,000 is not a monster purse, but to me, if you're playing for cash, you're a pro. Not sure why the Okotoks spiel isn't exempt in Alberta as a pro sport. Amateurs get trophies and ribbons, and pros get cash. So, Mary, basically, we can add pro curler to our resume now because we're pro curlers.
Former.
Yeah, former.
Oh.
Well, former. Fair.
Yeah. Well, so I took it upon myself to Google what is deemed to be a professional sport.
Ooh.
Yeah. It actually on Wikipedia. I hate to tell you, Lori, but yes, curling is. They actually have a list of professional sports, and curling is on there.
Oh.
And yeah, now Wikipedia, anybody can write that, right? But
fair.
I always thought of it as a professional sport is like the National Hockey League, where you actually get paid a salary.
Yes.
Whether you win or not, you're
Yes.
getting paid. You're going to work every day and getting paid for it, is what it is. But then you look at golf. It's a professional golf association, and they don't get a salary. They have to make the cut, and then they live off their winnings.
Yes.
And that is the exact same as what curlers do. It's the same also actually with race car driving. That's considered professional sport, but they have to win to make money. So,
okay, but in respect of that, golfers, race car drivers pay taxes on their winnings and their sponsorship, I'm assuming, and curlers do not. It's like winning a lottery, basically.
Yeah.
So
well, yeah.
I'm not sure if you can treat it the same way if they're not taxed the same way.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I don't know what the difference there is. I mean, you got tennis as well, right? That it's the same thing, but they win
also
is their salary.
and they win. The difference is with those sports, golf and tennis, when you're winning, when you're in the big leagues, like you're winning enough money to cover your lifestyle and whatnot. And curling just doesn't have that kind of money. That's why I think it's exempt from taxes and whatnot. So I thought in order for you to be deemed a professional athlete, you had to make enough money to basically be able to have that as your career.
Right.
And there's not many that can do that. And honestly, if it wasn't for sponsorship, nobody would be even close.
Yeah. Actually, I'm just on Google here. Professional sports as opposed to amateur sports are sports in which athletes receive payment for their performance. So there's nothing saying you have to receive a certain amount of payment for you to be a pro. So it's kind of gray.
It is a gray area. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah, for sure.
And Devin Hero tweeted something along the lines, Okotoks Ladies Classic Bonspiel shut down after one draw as new COVID restrictions are announced. The sports restrictions are specifically for recreational teams. Pro sports are exempt, however. Olympic champ Jennifer Jones, Homan in the field. So he doesn't really say anything, but he sort of says, hey, it's not just a rec league here playing. Right. So
yeah,
somebody did have a really interesting rebuttal, though, to that tweet. And they said, in all fairness, this is the right decision, and suggesting otherwise isn't responsible right now. Curling is secondary to the health of everyone.
Well, now, see, nobody can say a damn word anymore. Everybody's going to be all over you.
Yeah. Well, and there's always two ways to look at a situation, and this is no different. That's for sure.
No, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what was the segment we called it? What curlers are up to? Well, I think instead of what curlers are up to, it's what curlers are doing right now to keep busy during COVID. So I have a couple things that I saw which were interesting. So Russ Howard is getting back into curling again after taking basically 10 years off from competitive curling. And he's been helping out his son here and there. And yeah, he's 64 years old, and he filled in for Skip when his son was busy one weekend. And so he's basically, getting back out there, and he's coaching his son's team, but he thought it was really good to be able to be on the ice with them and walk them through certain situations, good teachable moments. So yeah, he's doing some mentoring work and getting back out and curling. So I don't know, there's like longevity in those Howard genes. They just will play forever.
Yeah, and I was actually thinking just the other day about all those commentators on TSN and Sportsnet and how shitty they must be feeling right now, because that is their job. Now I'm sure they're doing fine, but I just think it was such an enjoyment for them, especially Mike Harris. I was thinking of him the other day, thinking I'm sure he's really missing it.
Oh, I'm sure they all are. Yeah. So Russ Howard's keeping himself busy by curling again. And who else? Oh, Rachel Homan. Now, she did a guest commentary spot during the Penticton spiel, so I tuned in for a couple ends. And she mentioned that she now has her education degree, and she might start doing some supply teaching.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I thought good for her. I mean, it must be incredibly hard to just be sitting and waiting and not knowing. So heck, you got to start doing something else. Get your mind off of it.
Well, see, so COVID is pushing people to do things that maybe they never thought they would do again or do at all.
Yeah, like you and I with Marion and Loretta.
Exactly.
Just get out of your comfort zone, people. It's okay.
Take it from us.
Oh, dear. Now, Joanne Courtney, she, of course, is an RN, and she's been doing some casual hours on a dialysis unit at the University of Alberta Hospital.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I thought good for her. It's
yes.
great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So the curlers and the commentators are trying to find some things to keep themselves busy, because I'm sure the worry and the days are long, and I don't blame them.
Yep.
Okay, and then our last event to discuss is the event that took place out in Penticton. And I thought, as I was watching the final and the last couple games, I thought, oh boy, I better enjoy this, because this might be it for a while. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, funny enough, McEwen, who has not played all year, went out to Penticton and won the damn spiel.
Well, that is the spiel where I shut it off halfway through. But no, that's good. I mean, it goes to show you like how fickle curling can be, right?
Well, that's what I was thinking. I mean, there's teams out there that have been playing as much as they could possibly play. Like Team Cooey has been playing in everything. Howard's team played in everything that they could play in as well. Now, they made it to the final. But it's just interesting that McEwen, out of nowhere, shows up. And when I read an article about him today, he said he never even dreamed that they would be able to win that event. So there you go. Don't have expectations. Sometimes it helps.
You're right. Actually, sometimes it does help. And sometimes, I don't know, I have found if I'm off for a week and then I go play, I'm like, wow, I'm a lot better than I was last week when I was practicing all the time. I don't know. It's weird.
Well, I think things can get a little cluttery in the old noggin sometimes. So if you have a little break, it clears it all out.
Yeah, very true.
Now, Team Botcher lost to Howard in the semifinal on a measure. He did have a draw to the forefoot for the win and came up light. I don't know what happened to it. And then they still were able to measure the two rocks, and Howard stole. So that was kind of a bummer for Botcher. But a good showing for Team Howard. And again, 58 years young and just crushing it out there.
Yeah, good for him.
It was pretty big prize money too. $18,000 was first place, $15,000 was second, and the semifinalists made $9,000.
Wow. Well, it's a pretty popular spiel. I know they spoke about it online. That it's a little disappointing they couldn't have the crowds this year, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's beautiful out there, but they did have snow because Team McEwen, after they won, I saw a video and they couldn't get to their Airbnb. They had to their car got stuck and they had to walk up basically a mountain to get to their Airbnb. So,
Oh, God.
they had to walk home.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, dear.
I know. Reality bites.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so Mary, we are running our calendar contest, and there's just a couple more days to get the entries in. And I've been super happy with the number of entries we've gotten, so I just want to thank everybody who's entered. We'll be picking the winner, and we will announce it on social media, so stay tuned for that. Okay. Do you have anything else that you wanted to discuss?
No, I think we've covered it all, Lori.
Okay, well, let's end it on this. I read a funny article that Germany is hailing the coach potato as COVID-19 heroes. So, of course, this is a satirical tone. The quote said, "We mustered all our courage and did what was expected of us. The only right thing. We did nothing, absolutely nothing, being as lazy as raccoons." I don't know, it just cracked me up. I was like, well, now when I sit and eat chips and watch The Bachelorette, which we're going to do once we get off this call, I'm not going to feel guilty. I'm going to feel like a hero. And of course, this is all in jest because we know the true heroes are all the frontline workers. But I just thought it was funny.
Well, I saw something months ago. Now, let me see if I can remember what the quote was. Something about when I used to lay around on my dad used to get mad at me when all I did was lay around on the couch. Who knew I'd be saving lives by doing it now?
That's exactly it. Yes.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole different perspective now.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that will wrap it up. When do you think we will be able to do another episode, Mary?
Oh, I don't know, Lori. I am so busy. So busy. I don't know when I'm going to get time to sit on the couch for an hour and talk to you.
Oh, dear. Well, I think we should end this episode, and we just want everybody to stay safe and stay healthy. We'll talk to you soon. So follow us at Two Girls in a Game on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts. Hosting is provided by curlingzone.com. We're already looking forward to our next episode. Until then, we're Two Girls in a Game. Play nice, everyone.
Hello. Do you hear me loud and clear?
I do hear you loud and clear.
All right.
I want to hear Marion say test.
I can't remember how she talks.
We need to have a couple drinks in order for Marion to come out again.